Welcome to the Social for Brokers podcast. Now, today I have with me somebody who I've been trying to get on the podcast for quite a while now. So I'm honoured that he's joined us today. I appreciate, really busy man. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll recognise his face and you'll probably recognise the branding behind him. It's John Foster, who is the founder and the managing director of Foster's Financial. Now, John has actually grown his business from himself sat at his kitchen table to now having 9 staff and a beautiful office in Essex. So today we're going to get into how John grew his business. Also going to have a chat about his charity, the Foster's Foundation, and how that helps his community and the goals that he wants for his business aligned with it. And we're also going to discuss all of the negative side of it as well, the struggles that he's experienced as being a mortgage advisor and struggles that you guys that are listening will be going through now or will go through in the future. So John's going to impart a bit of wisdom for us today. But first of all, John, thank you very much for coming on and welcome.
Thank you, Chris. We can definitely fill half an hour with all the struggles, so that won't be a problem at all.
We're not going to go full negative. We're going to talk about those struggles and how you overcame them.
Absolutely.
So what we're doing, guys, I am testing out a new HD recording bit of software for the podcast. So hopefully this goes smoothly with no teething issues. But let's see how we get on. So, John, before we get into it, give us a little bit of a background to who you are, what you've done, and how you've got to where you are today, really.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so if I take it right back, ironically, I left school and I worked out that I'd hated school, so I didn't want to be stuck behind a desk for the rest of my life. So I went to be a plumber.
Okay.
But before I started my plumbing apprenticeship, I had a little part-time job on Saturdays at the bank when I was like 16, being a cashier or whatever. So that gave me a bit of pocket money to buy trainers and whatever else. Went off, did my plumbing apprenticeship, and then they put me behind a desk to learn about health and safety. And I thought, what on earth have I done here? This is not what I wanted at all. And it just so happened when I was having one of those low moments on the change curve that we always talk about, I had a call from the boss at the bank, and he said, "Look, we've got a full-time position. Before we go out and find someone, we'd love to offer it to you." So that was just the right time. I think my mum was very disappointed that I'd given up my plumbing apprenticeship to go and work as a cashier at the bank. But I did that. Worked at Lloyd's TSB for a number of years, from like cashier to account handler and all the way up. And then did a brief spell at Co-op Bank for a couple of years. And then I joined Spicer Heart, which is where the mortgage world started. So Spicer Heart, just mortgages. I looked after a couple of their agency brands from a mortgage perspective, not as a manager, just an advisor. And absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved my time there. It was brilliant. Went on some amazing trips. They absolutely sport me. And I was with them for a good 4 or 5 years. Really loved it. But I was working all of the hours under the sun. So I was in the office 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was there till 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. But absolutely loved it, and it was all my choice. But I wanted an administrator, basically, because I'm terrible at admin, absolutely terrible at it. It's the thing that I put off. So I wanted an administrator. That wasn't something that could be facilitated within the role that I had. So eventually, I thought, do you know what? I'm gonna go self-employed, so that I can get an administrator. So that's where it all started.
Oh, wow. Okay. So started off in the bank, so had a good understanding of finance before you. It's funny how many mortgage advisors I have on the podcast that fell into it. Almost like nobody leaves school going, I want to be a mortgage advisor, but fall into it and get quite passionate about it, about helping these people with their mortgages. So again, if anybody's been listening to the podcast for quite a while, it's a story that's echoed through a lot of mortgage brokers' stories. Okay, so you get to the point where you're working as a mortgage broker under Just Mortgages. What then made you have the drive to go, right, I'm going to go self-employed and then start creating Foster's Financial? Where did all that come about from?
Yeah, well, I mean, I obviously I had a great time there, but I just loved the job. I really, really loved the
Hmm.
job. But there was certain things that I would have done differently, and I would have
Okay.
changed. Um, and at that time, I was consuming a lot of information. I was listening and reading to a lot of things, and talking about being a disruptor in the marketplace and trying to do things differently. Um, and for me, that what at that time was unique was that there was no one really providing that full service, that end to end. There was lots of mortgage brokers in the town that I was in that were really good at selling the dream, but
Okay.
there wasn't anyone that was really good at delivering on it. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to do the fantastic client facing bit, which I felt that I was good at, but make sure that we could deliver on all of those things all the way through.
Hmm.
So that's what my version, however mediocre it is feels now. That was my version of going in and disrupting the marketplace. Um, and I was in a very fortunate position in that I got paid very well at Just Mortgages, and that allowed me to build up a little bit of a nest egg to go it alone. So I just wanted to go out there and felt that I could really make a big impact on the local market. Whilst I was working at Just Mortgages for Heart estate agents,
Hmm.
I had lots of estate agents in my town referring people to me because they knew that I could get the job done.
You were good.
Um, so I felt that I could use my local contacts, get some leads in, and grow the business like that.
Well, it's quite interesting how not once you've talked about there the financial gain, because obviously as a financial gain for going it alone, yes, there's more risks, but you never once said, I wanted to go out there and earn my own. You know what I mean? I wanted to increase the amount. It's more
Yeah.
about I wanted to increase the service level for the client. So it's a really, really nice way of looking at it. Okay,
Yeah,
so we've got Foster's Financial. You are sat at your kitchen table in 2016, did you say?
that's right. Yeah,
So
that's right.
2016. How long did you work for before you even started thinking about staff? Because you said you were terrible at admin, but I assume you didn't have
Yeah.
the financial ability to do that straight away.
Yeah, so I think that would have been a silly move day one. I needed to make sure I could get some scores on the doors. I mean, the actual story starts a bit before that. So
Okay.
I was obviously I'd given me my notice. I'd gone. I'd been put on gardening leave. But because of the volume of business I was doing, naturally, I understand now as an employer, they were a little bit worried about that and thought that all of
Hmm.
this business was suddenly going to walk out the door. So I had a very, very large DPD delivery, which completely changed what I was able to do. My whole aim was to go and speak to these agents that I've been working with and say, look, I'm not there now, but I can still help you,
Hmm.
But I got this massive letter come through for some very posh solicitors in London, which basically said, you're not allowed to step foot anywhere near Colchester.
Uh, really?
So, yeah,
Colchester, just like that small area that's.
yeah. I think I can't remember the exact details, but I think it was within 10 miles or something like that, 5, 10 miles,
Wow.
somewhere in that range. So being a bit naive then and not really understanding the legalities and all of that sort of stuff, I knew that if they wanted to, they could make my life very difficult. So I chose not to take that challenge on.
Hmm.
And I lived near Ipswich, which is in Suffolk, for those that don't know. So I sort of ripped the business plan up, and I decided to go for Suffolk. So at that point, sort of things had been turned upside down a little bit. I didn't really know if I was going to get business in quickly or not, how that would work. So I didn't go out and get anyone on. The first recruit that I took on was an administrator
Hmm.
because of that piece that I mentioned a minute ago. I wanted to make sure that we could provide that excellent service because you do it really well. You provide them an outstanding service. They refer friends to you. Domino effect, and it starts to
Hmm.
grow. And that's been my ethos all the way through: is do a really good job and ask
They'll
for
come
referrals.
back.
Um, so yeah, so the first recruit was an administrator, and I made that after about 6 months of going it
Okay,
alone.
quite quickly
Um,
then.
Yeah, well, if you'd have seen my admin, Chris, you'd say it should have been 2 months. But I think that's what the network were telling me anyway. But yeah, six months. I read so much about get rid of the things that you're no good at, and that's definitely a weakness of mine. Is that the data input on the CRM, the letters, and all of that sort of stuff is the bit that I'm not good at.
So that's interesting. We never really talk about self-development books or organization books on here. But you said you read stuff that talks about outsourcing the things that you're not very good at. And it'll come
Yeah.
into when we talk about social media later. You've obviously
Mm.
adopted the same thing. But are there any books that you recommend or websites to recommend to people to read?
Yeah. So there's a chap called James Sinclair. If you want some quick videos, he's an entrepreneur down in Essex, owns a business called Party Man. He does some very good stuff about. He always talks about outsourcing the things that you're not good at and knowing your weaknesses. There's a book called A 4 Hour Work Week, 4 Hour Work Week,
Yeah.
which is Tim Ferriss, which is really really good about
It's
being analytical around what you're doing on the
I think
shelf.
there it is. There we go. Can you see it above my finger
Yeah.
there? That's the
Yes,
one
I
I had that
recognise it
years
now. Actually,
ago.
the
Yeah,
blue at the
yeah,
bottom. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, 4 Hour Work Week. I'm not sure is realistic, but the things that he does in order to save time,
Hmm.
the way that he processes speed reading, all of these sorts of things to be able to get as much in the space of time that you've got, I think is really valuable. There's loads.
Yeah,
I
just
don't know, Seven
interested. We never
Habits.
talk about
Yeah,
them. The Seven Habits, that's on there as well, I think somewhere.
on there
Yeah,
as
but
well.
I think that's the one up there. There's one up the
Yeah.
top. But anyway, sorry, anybody that's not watching on YouTube, I've got like a library of books behind me, and I'm just pointing to them
Yeah.
as we're talking about them. But
They've never been
stuff.
read, guys, but
No,
just got
they're
them
all
there for
fake. They're just cardboard cutouts. Those ones. um, so the funny thing is, I'm going to grab. I read this when I was an estate agent. You can see if you watch it on YouTube, you can
Okay,
see
yeah.
all the just to prove I do read them. But that's how much good stuff there is in that book. I've got so many bookmarks in the 4 Hour Work Week. I'm going to pop that one.
If anyone wants to start reading, that's always the first one I recommend because I think that was the tipping point of me understanding that value versus time reward and
Right.
working, you know, that big piece about working smarter, not harder. But if you work smarter and harder, then you're going to achieve a load more.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So, at what point then you sat down and you're like, right, yes, my admin, I can't keep up with my admin at the moment. I need to get somebody in. Was there like a financial breakdown that you did? And the reason I say this is because on this podcast, a lot of people will listen that they may be at that tipping point where they know that they need another member of staff, and a very good admin is always, I think, better than hiring another broker. Um,
Yeah.
how do you work that out? How do you work out how much money you've got to do it? And we don't need to talk figures, but there's like a rough
Uh,
guide of what you thought.
well, the beauty of our sector is that we've got high value transactions, right? So
Hmm.
a mortgage deal should be in the region of £2,000. So with your broker fee, your prop fee, and all of that, you should have £2,000. So the way I always work something out like that is right. If I don't have to do all of that, how many more of them can I find? So if
Okay.
it's going to cost me 2,000, 2,500, £3,000 for an administrator, if I got rid of those 20 hours work a week, could I find one more case?
Like
I think
that.
I probably could. I think I probably could find that quite easily. And
Hmm.
that's how I made that initial decision and the subsequent ones. So uh, when I then came to getting, my first broker, my second broker, my third broker, so on and so forth, okay, well, I'm at capacity. If I did 3 less deals a week, could I find another 10 introducers? Could I find another 10 leads a week? Have I got the time to
Right.
do that?
Okay. So you switch
So,
your mindset with brokers. Sorry to interrupt. So when you're looking at admin, how many more appointments can I do? When you're looking at brokers, how many more introducers can I get?
yeah. So, and it might be the wrong way to look at it because some people might be a lot more cautious, and I understand that. And I'm not saying that my way is the right way, but my way is how much more can I generate if I get someone else to do that thing that I'm currently doing? So if I get someone else to do, in my world, the CRM, which might take an hour a client, that gives me 5 hours a week to find or to do another two signups probably, and that's the way I risk versus reward it.
Interest. Do you find generating business for your brokers more fulfilling than doing appointments? I know it's a tough one.
That is a tough one. I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
It's actually an interesting question, and I don't think I'm there yet, Chris. But I have a business coach that I work with,
Mm-hmm.
and he talks about getting me to change my winning mindset from doing a 5 grand deal to bringing in a 50 grand introducer, because for me the thrill of the deal, the helping someone, etc., the endorphins that I get for that still probably outweighs getting on an introducer that's going to send us 100 leads a week. But yeah, I need to change my
It's
mindset on that.
it's the delayed endorphins, isn't it? An introducer, when you shake hands with them and say you're going to send us business, yes, there's that initial great, I've landed an introducer, but you're not going to see that business for the next 2 or 3 months as you build that relationship. Whereas with a 5 grand deal, you're like, bang, that's it. I know that's cash for next month. So just an interesting question. Okay, so let's get onto the conversation of leads now, because you've got, how many brokers have you got working with you now?
So we've got 5 at the moment.
5. Okay, so 5 brokers. How do you feed them with leads?
Well, we have a couple of, we have 3 ponds that we fish in. So
Okay.
pond number 1 is introduce a lead. So that's what I was just talking about. And that's working with estate agencies and new build introducers in order to provide us with clients that need help and advice. So that's number 1. Number 2 is we obviously have a client bank. So we contact all of our existing clients 7 months out, because everyone else contacts them 6 months in terms of lenders. We contact those 7 months out. And then the third one is what I would call organic, but you'll no doubt tell me a different phrase for it. But what I would describe by that is our pay per click, our SEO, our call ins, our Google searches, that sort of stuff.
Right. Okay. I see what you mean. Yeah. So the good thing is you've got those 3 ponds to fish in. If one of them dries up, you've got another 2, and all 3 aren't going to dry up at the same time, are they?
No, I mean,
Big,
they did for a little bit at the end of 2022, but that's a different conversation.
which everyone went through. But we're back. We're fine. Everything's moving.
Yeah, exactly. We're cooking again.
Big question at the moment, because it has got quieter, and maybe a lot of people that went out there and maybe set up a self-employed, left an employed role and took that big leap, or business owners that are looking to feed their mortgage brokers with leads, is there's a big conversation is, should you buy leads? Now, have you ever bought leads before, and what was your experience?
I have bought leads before, and I guess I do buy leads at the moment in a different way by pay per click. Um, but you're talking about the ones where you
I'm talking
pay
about, right,
30, 50 quid for
is
a lead a
70
month.
quid. Give me their telephone number, I'll phone them. What's been your experience? It's just for people that may be listening that are thinking, oh, I might buy leads because I've gone a bit quieter. Let's hear it from somebody that's been there and done it.
So I've done it. I'll be honest, my business didn't have success with it, but I
Okay.
do know a number of brokerage firms that are good friends of mine that have massive success with it. Things
Okay.
like Unbiased. So if you're going to make that work, the key things are you have to have someone that's going to call that lead quickly. So you have to have someone readily available to call that lead, sell the benefits of the business, and get that booked in.
Mm-hmm.
Buy quickly, probably within 15 minutes of that lead landing.
Wow, that
That
quick.
quick, yeah, to make it work, because that's when they're hot and that's when they're live and they're ready to go. You need to catch them before they move on to the next thing. So you need to have someone that can call them quickly, and you need to have a robust management system of those leads, because you have to be able to go back to those lead providers and say that was a dead number, this one didn't answer, and provide evidence of that so that you can
Mm-hmm.
manage it appropriately. So for me, it requires significant manpower to make it work. If you've got nothing going on and you can turn it on from 3 till 5 and you can, or 3 till 10, and you can sit there and wait for that lead to jump and quickly get on it, then I think it could work perfectly.
Interesting, because
You've
it's
got
a
to be
conversation about
instant
at the minute.
reaction.
Instant, within 15 minutes, get on the phone to them. And I like the tip that you give in there is document everything, because you can go back to the lead provider and say, well, this one was dead. This one, they spoke to somebody else, etc., etc. A really good tip, that is. Thank you. So
if you
we
were
talked
going to
about
spend
lead.
£1,000 on that form of lead, I would probably say speak to a pay-per-click advisor and say you've got £1,000, because I think you'd end up with a better quality.
It is, isn't it? I always say organic is the best. And when I say organic, it's somebody warming up to you 6 to 12 months of getting to know your business. If you need leads today, that's impossible. You can't do that. Whereas pay-per-click, you know that it's somebody searching for it. They, instead of just putting their details into an unbiased website that's then passed to you, they've clicked on your website. They know who Foster's Financial are. They've bought into you, even if it's 10, 15%. When you pick up the phone to them, they understand, they know who's calling, instead of a lead where you're calling out the blue. So it's interesting to speak to somebody about PPC. And to be honest, we had Rachel, who works in the FS industry, on last week, talking about PPC and SEO. So interesting. If you do want to go and listen to it, take a listen to the last episode. Right. Okay. So we're going to move on to the social media section now. Now, on your social media, you have a really good balance of branded content and personal content. How does the engagement differ between the two different types of posts, John?
So personal is like up here, and business is like way down here. You get so much more interaction on the personal, but you need to do a bit of both, right?
Yeah, and that was my point. That's why I asked you that question, because you guys are very good. You use my Sainsbury's carrier bag analogy. I use this all the time. That if you see somebody walking down the street with an orange carrier bag, you don't even look at the logo. You automatically know it's Sainsbury's. That's how strong your social media posts need to be in your local area. So, John's, if you're watching it on YouTube, you'll see in the background, you've got navy blue, pink, and like a cyan kind of blue. When you see one of their posts, I don't even have to read who that is or look at their logo. I automatically know it's them. That's how strong their brand is in their local area. Then you intersperse it with a bit of personal content. And that's what makes a really good social media channel, is having that that balance. And we talk about a lot about this, and I'm going to we do a free email every Wednesday that comes out, and we talk about these type of things, how to brand your posts, how to make that balance of personal and business content. So if you haven't signed up yet, go onto our website, socialforbrokers.com, click blog at the top right and sign up, and you get those emails every week. And we talk about all this all the time. So you do a lot of personal content. And one of the great posts that I saw was the tea test. And I'm not going to say any more about that. Talk to us about what the tea test was and how it benefited you as a business.
So, I mean, the tea test was a bit of fun, really. Obviously, given it's tea, Chris, that would have been right up your street. So
I got tagged in it. I felt quite honoured. I got tagged in it by you guys.
So there was a debate in the office about Isaac said, I can tell any tea brand, whatever it is, put it in front of me. I know what it is. And this particular brand is my favourite. Other brands of tea are available, but it was Yorkshire. No, Chris.
No other tea brands are available. Yorkshire tea is the only option, and I won't have any other words said on this podcast.
So we put out a post on our WhatsApp group and said, right, everyone, bring in your tea bag from home. So we brought in loads of tea, but there was some crossovers or whatever. But in the end, I think we ended up with about 5 or 6 teas, and there was an Earl Grey in the mix just to really throw him off, which is not for me, but one of the girls in the office loves it. So so we had that, and and he didn't get it right. His recipe was the Aldi's own brand version, not the
Okay, a good way to find new teas.
There you go. So it saved me a ton of money for the office because I haven't got to buy Yorkshire pudding. No.
Love that.
So that was the fun bit. But I just wanted to get it out there because it just shows the human.
Hmm.
We are a very boring industry. We're talking about interest rates and all these anagrams. It's not overly fun, and trying to get some personalities across was what I wanted to do. So
Hmm.
um, with that one, completely last minute, I actually just took some very quick videos on my phone while he was doing it.
Yeah.
Um, and put it into the reel on Instagram, and it created this video for me. It was brilliant.
And this is, I
Well
wanted
done.
you to tell that
That worked really well.
story. It worked really well. You got a lot of engagement from it, didn't you? Because I saw it on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. You had a lot of people engage with it. Now, I always think if I look at a video and it's own, say if it's got 10 likes on it and your other posts have got 2 or 3, I think those 10 likes is actually 100 because the amount of people that have watched that, it's very rare that somebody will like a post anymore. I mean, you think about it, how many things I watch so much TikTok and I find things funny, but I never like the actual video. So
Yeah.
it just shows if you've got a higher amount of likes on your post, just imagine the actual reach of the post is much more. The reason I want you to tell that story is because it was very raw. It was behind the scenes. You didn't set up lighting. You didn't have everyone sat there prim and proper. It was, I've got my phone, I'm recording what's happening and I'm uploading it. Sometimes those are the best pieces of content because it shows your human side. Then when you guys pick up the phone and say, "Hi, John Smith, your mortgage is up in 7 months' time. We're here to have a chat about it." And they're like, "Bloody, have you got the right tea bags in?" And it starts a conversation. It's not. It's no longer a cold entry. If that person's seen that video, they feel like they know you already. Like
Yeah.
Isaac, do you know what I mean? I saw your tea test the other day. They're already bought into you. You don't have to sell your service. So I just thought that was incredible. Now that's a post that you did yourself.
Mhm.
When you do your branded posts, who does those for you?
It's a mixture. So what we tend to do is once a week have a bit of a brainstorming session. So
Hmm.
we try and get out 2 business and 2 personal a week. That's
Okay.
our aim. So we try and get out a mortgage, a protection, and 2 bits of personal. It doesn't always work like that. We work 2 weeks ahead.
Hmm.
So yesterday we brainstormed for 2 weeks ahead of time, so that if we've got holiday or it's gone mental with 500 rate switches or whatever it is we're doing, and that we don't
You've
get
got
fall behind
stuff.
too much.
Hmm.
Yeah, and we just brainstorm it out. I'm brilliant at getting ideas. Well, that sounds really big-headed. But my forte is going, okay, what about this? What about this? Word it like that, or this. My forte isn't delivering on that, if that makes sense.
And this, the reason I ask you that question is because you have a team, say like somebody that works within the business, maybe an admin. You give them the ideas and they go and make it happen. I think as mortgage brokers, a lot of the listeners think it's almost down to them to think of it, make it happen, post it. Lean on your team because a team member has to do so many more things now than just admin, and
So
it breaks
yeah,
their day up.
outsource the things you're not good at.
Yeah,
100%.
love it.
So
Okay, perfect.
if you're
Go on.
sitting there and you don't do social media, find another case and give Chris a ring.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's going on a review. That's going to be posted up, clipped up. John Foster. Now, just to be clear, we don't look after John's social media. You have somebody in house that's very good, and it comes out consistently. But I just wanted to ask that question to show people that it can be done by somebody in house. And we just did an email last week. I'm going to quickly touch on this about how you can use friends and family to create your content. Text a few of your family members and just ask for a selfie of them and just upload a post about how you did their mortgage. You don't even have to think then. It's a photo or a photo of them outside the house. Or if they're really good, get them to do a little video saying how awesome you were. So that's just a little tip for you. So we've talked about social media, how you guys are doing branded content. We're talking about the personal side of it. Now, before we get into the strategy question, which everybody loves on this podcast, we like to make a £10 donation to a charity of your choice to say thank you for taking your time for coming on. So which charity did you want us to make the donation to, John?
So I'm going to send you a link, Chris. I'm running the London Marathon next month. No, I'm not. In
Nice.
April, 21st of April. Not quite next month. We'll be in a few days. So yeah, bucket list for me. Never done it
Awesome.
before. The training is hellish, but we're getting there. So yeah, I'll send you a link. I'm trying to raise a sensible amount of money, £2,000 for Marie Curie, which is a really important charity to me. Helped my
Fantastic
family in all
charity.
sorts of ways over the years. So yeah, want to give a bit back to them.
Awesome. And what we'll do, we'll put the link in the comments of this podcast post as well. So if anybody
Brilliant.
wants to
Thank you very
donate
much.
to Marie Curie, they most definitely can. You upload a lot of sorry, going a bit off topic here. You upload a lot of content to your personal one about your running. Is there any reason you
Yes.
don't do it to the business page?
Um, no, I don't know if there is any
No.
reason I don't
I
do
just
it to the
thought it'd be a
business page.
great way to show a bit of that personality, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I guess I tend to do like the personal videos on my personal LinkedIn
Hmm.
and try and keep I don't really want me to be the face of Foster's, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
From a client perspective, I'm more than happy for it from an industry perspective, but from a client perspective, so I guess that's why. Um, but I don't think we've shared anything about me running the marathon on the Foster's page, so that would
Yeah, that would
makes
be good
sense.
just to get
Something
it
I've not
out there.
thought of.
Right then, so getting to the strategy question. So we're going to pretend that you've moved to the north of Scotland. You've been plonked there with a laptop, a mobile phone, and an internet connection. What would you do to start generating new mortgage business?
What would I do to start? So, I mean, first of all, I'd get out and speak to people. So that's, a free way for you to get your name out there, go to the local pub, walk the
Okay.
local, I don't know how north of Scotland I am, walk the mountains, whatever it is, and just speak to people and make sure people know who you are and what you do. Um,
Hmm.
the my idea is always to try and provide an amazing service, make sure that it's red carpet, make sure the client's happy, and then ask for reviews off the back of it, because that is a domino effect that then
Hmm.
gets you a bigger and bigger audience. Um, so I would put some money behind a pay-per-click campaign.
Okay.
So as little as a couple £100 a week should get you some decent volumes for local advertising, or you can obviously advertise anywhere in the UK. I would get as much out there in terms of personality on social as I could to generate some leads, but that's not going to give you some instant wins. You need to work at that for, I mean, you're the man, Chris. I would say 6 to 9 months before you're going to see any traction on that.
Yeah, definitely.
But so that's going to be a long burn. Um, and then I suppose my third way would be I'd walk to the estate agents in the nearest town to me. I would knock on the door and walk in and say, "Who is doing your mortgages and why can't I do them?"
There we go. Simple as that. And that's it. It's just introducing it, especially the estate agents. Personally, I was an estate agent. If somebody did that as a mortgage broker, it makes them stick out in my mind. And even if that estate agent has a mortgage broker they refer to, there is going to be a point in the future where that mortgage broker cannot fix something for a client. So I'll just give John a quick call and let's see if he can do anything. If you help on one case, you're in. Or if they have a falling out or something like that, or the mortgage broker that they refer to simply gets too busy and they need another person to refer to. So all great ways. And I think the PPC is an interesting one because that £200, if you did it locally and went hyper local, that £200 wouldn't be swallowed up compared to if you did a UK one. And I think we always, in any business, we try and run before we can walk. Instead, just focus on that local business, your friends, your family, any people that you know locally that would buy a service from you. Awesome.
100%.
John, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Great way to finish. Where's the best place for people to contact you or reach out to you? Which platform's best?
LinkedIn is the best one for me. Yeah, pop me a message, give me a call,
Awesome.
comment on the posts.
That's it. Last plug. Thank you very much for coming on, John. And as I said before, if you haven't joined our email list yet, make sure you get to our website, socialforbrokers.com/blog. Join there, free email every week, and we give loads of social media tips away. Thanks very much for coming on, John. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers.